She almost lost her babies before they ever opened their eyes. But Olivia refused to let Lily and Noah grow up, believing neglect was normal love. From hospital beds to courtroom battles, she fought for a safer future for her children. This story is about courage, motherhood, and choosing peace over pain. If Olivia S. story inspired you, please support the channel with one like and one share so we can continue creating powerful stories like this. Thanks for watching.
Welcome to Empire Love Stories. Imagine being 8 months pregnant with twins and alone in a glass penthouse. There is blood on the floor and pain ripping through your body. You call the man who promised to protect you, but he calls you dramatic. He hangs up to get back to his champagne and his investors. This was the reality for Olivia Parker. But her husband did not know who would show up that night. The man who held her hand and saved her children was his biggest enemy, his billionaire rival. This is a story of betrayal and survival. One night can burn your life to ashes, but you can build something better. Subscribe now so you never miss a chapter of this journey. Rain hammered the floor to ceiling windows of the Seattle penthouse, turning the city lights into golden streaks. Inside, the apartment was way too quiet. Olivia Parker stood in the kitchen, gripping the marble counter with one hand and her heavy belly with the other. She was 32 weeks pregnant with twins, a boy and a girl. These babies made the months of morning sickness and swollen ankles feel worth it. Then the pain hit. It was sharp and hot, like a heavy fist squeezing her from the inside. Her knees buckled. When she looked down, a dark red stain was spreading across her white maternity dress. For a second, her mind refused to believe it. Then terror hit her like a ton of bricks. No, no, no. With shaking fingers, she grabbed her phone and called Ryan. His smiling wedding photo popped up that was from 4 years ago. The phone rang and rang. Finally, he answered. "Liv, what is it?" "I told you I am in a meeting." There was that sharp edge in his voice. It made her feel like a problem, not a person to be loved. "Ryan," she gasped. "Something is wrong. I cannot feel the twins. There is blood everywhere. You need to come home. Please," she begged. In the background, she heard the clinking of glasses and people laughing. It was his big investor party for the Singapore deal. "Take a breath," Ryan said. "We talked about this. You had a scare last month, and it was nothing. The doctor said you are fine." He told her it was just her hormones making her anxious again. Olivia pressed her hand against her stomach. There was nothing. No kicks. No movement. The constant flipping of the past few weeks had gone silent. "This is different," she whispered. "I am soaking through my dress. I am so scared, Ryan." He let out a long sigh, as if she were a massive burden. "I will try to leave early. Just take something for the pain and call your doctor. I will be home by 9. "It is 7:40, Olivia choked out. "I do not think I have until 9. "You are overreacting again," he said, and then he hung up. She stood there in the dead silence. Another wave of pain hit, and her vision started to go gray. A voice in her head finally spoke up. "He is not coming. Oh, call 911. Her hands were slippery, but she dialed. "I am pregnant," she told the operator. 8 months. There is so much blood. "I cannot feel them moving," she cried. They asked for her address, and she gave it. The luxury building downtown. The one that always impressed people at dinner parties. It was a symbol of the perfect life she was supposed to be grateful for. "Are you alone, Ma-am?" "Yes," she whispered. "Can you call your husband?" A broken sound escaped her, half a laugh and half a sob. "I have been calling my husband all day." "He is busy." "Stay on the line," the operator said. The ambulance is 3 minutes away. She tried to sit, but her legs gave out. She hit the marble floor hard, and her phone skidded away. "Please," she whispered. "Please be okay. Do not leave me." For one heartbeat, she felt a weak flutter, like a tiny ghost of a movement. Then, nothing. Her last thought before the gray closed in was that she should have left him months ago. Being busy meant he was choosing something else over her. She had been begging for scraps and calling it love. Sirens screamed somewhere below, getting louder, and then everything went dark. The paramedics found her unconscious in a pool of blood. Female, late 20s, 32 weeks pregnant with twins, the medic shouted. Heavy bleeding. Her blood pressure is 80/50. She is in shock. They moved fast. They started an intravenous line, put on an oxygen mask, and lifted her onto the gurney. Sarah the medic scanned the room. The designer furniture and the wedding photos. In one, Olivia was laughing in a lace dress, holding Ryan Parker's hand. He was the golden boy of the tech world, the chief executive officer of Parker Pharma. The media adored him. But the woman bleeding on the floor looked nothing like that happy bride. In the back of the ambulance, Olivia's eyes flickered. "My babies," she whispered through the mask. "Are they alive?" Sarah quickly checked the portable monitor for any sign of life. 2 tiny heartbeats flickered on the screen. They were fast and weak, but they were there. "They are fighting," Sarah said. "You are a fighter, too. We are getting you to St. Mary's. Call Ryan," Olivia breathed out. "My husband. His number is in my phone." Sarah found it and dialed, putting it on speaker. It rang 4 times. "Parker," a voice said, sounding annoyed. Music and loud voices were in the background. "I told you I would call you back, Liv." "Mr. Parker, this is emergency services," Sarah cut in. "We are taking your wife to the hospital with a suspected placental abruption. This is life-threatening for her and the twins. You need to meet us there immediately." There was a long pause. A burst of laughter spilled out from his party. "How serious is this exactly?" he asked. Sarah's jaw clenched tight. "Your wife is hemorrhaging," she said flatly. "The babies are in distress. She could die. This is as serious as it possibly gets." "Right," he said. "Okay, I will try to get there as soon as I can." "Sir, this is not a try situation." But the line just clicked dead. Sarah and Olivia locked eyes. Olivia saw it all. He really did just say he would try. Tears leaked from the corners of Olivia's eyes as the city lights flashed past. At that same moment, across town, Alexander Cole was finishing a speech. He talked about how his company was committed to protecting the quality of life. The crowd applauded as the cameras flashed. Alex stepped away from the podium, thinking about his next meeting. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He looked at the screen and frowned. It was Megan. His sister never called during one of his big events, unless something was very, very wrong. He answered quickly. "Megan, I am in the middle of a meeting." "I need you at St. Mary's," Dr. Megan Cole said. "Right now." He straightened up. "What happened?" "There is an emergency. A woman with twins has a massive abruption. We are taking her to surgery. But I do not deliver babies." Megan paused. "Her name is Olivia Parker," she said. "Ryan Parker's wife." Alex felt the blood in his veins turn cold. Ryan was his sworn enemy. Now, his rival's wife was fighting for her life. The judge threw the case out, scolding Parker Pharma for wasting the court's time. But Ryan just smiled for the reporters, all charm, saying, "You take a shot." This one missed. No hard feelings. Alex definitely had hard feelings. Next came an anonymous tip questioning his clinical ethics. It meant another investigation, another round of legal fees, and more damage to his company's stock. Ryan Parker played dirty. But his sister Megan's next words cut through his rage. "The baby's heart rates are dropping," she said. "She has been calling him for hours. He is not here." Then she added, "Alex, she might die alone." In that instant, the ballroom around him disappeared. He was 14 again, in a Boston hospital hallway, staring through a window as a nurse pulled a sheet over his mother's body. Stage 4 cancer. His father had visited only twice in 8 months, too busy saving the company to sit with his dying wife. When she died, she had been utterly alone. Alex had sworn he would never become his father. "I am on my way," he said, already moving. He handed off his champagne, made his apologies, and stepped out into the rain. The operating room was cold and bright. Olivia drifted in and out of focus as they wheeled her in, aware of voices, lights, and someone squeezing her hand. A voice cut through the fog. "Olivia, I am Dr. Megan Cole. We have to get your babies out right now. You are bleeding too much, do you understand?" "Yes," she whispered. "Is Ryan here?" Megan's jaw tightened. "Not yet," she said. "But I am here. I will not leave you." As the mask descended over her face, Olivia had one final, perfectly clear thought. You cannot apologize your way into being loved. You cannot make yourself small enough to fit into someone else's life. Alexander paced the waiting room in his tuxedo pants and open dress shirt, his hands shoved in his pockets. For years, he had imagined all the ways he would one day ruin Ryan Parker. But none of those daydreams ever put me in a hospital, waiting for news about her. A silent news report flickered on a wall-mounted TV, but nobody was watching. Then Megan appeared, her scrubs stained, her hair tucked into a surgical cap. He crossed the room in 3 quick strides. "Well," he demanded. "The twins are alive," she said. "They're both premature, but they're fighters. They're in the neonatal intensive care unit. A girl and a boy. And Olivia? She lost a lot of blood," Megan said softly. "A complete placental abruption. If she'd waited another 20 minutes, this would be a very different conversation." That tight knot in his chest loosened, just a little. For now, she's stable. She's in recovery. It will take time. "Where's Ryan?" Alex asked. Megan's eyes flashed with anger. "Not here," she snapped. "We called him 3 times during the surgery, and every single time it went straight to voicemail." Alex pulled out his phone. 2 years ago, Ryan had handed him a business card and sneered, "Call me when you're ready to settle." It was a taunt. Tonight, Alex was finally using that number. The phone picked up on the 3rd ring. "Alex," Ryan's voice was a little slurred. "It's a bit late for business, isn't it?" "Your wife nearly died tonight," Alex said. There was silence, but he could hear a party roaring in the background. "What are you talking about?" "She had a placental abruption," Alex said. "An emergency C-section. Your children are in the neonatal unit. She is in recovery." At St. Mary's. This time the silence was longer. Alex waited, expecting to hear shock or panic or a man running for the door. Instead, Ryan asked, "How do you even know all that? Why are you involved?" "Because I am here," Alex snapped back. "Someone had to be," he continued. "She called you 4 times while she was bleeding on your bathroom floor. You told her she was overreacting and went back to your party." "I was in a very important meeting," Ryan argued. "You have no idea what is going on in my marriage. You're just trying to use this. Room 518 recovery," Alex said coldly. "In case you decide you want to meet your children." He hung up before he said something he'd truly regret. Megan stood there with her arms crossed over her chest. "Feel any better?" No, Alex admitted. Because now I know exactly what kind of man he really is. So what are you going to do about it? He glanced toward the closed door of the recovery room. I'm going to make sure she doesn't wake up alone. Olivia felt like she was floating up from the bottom of a deep ocean. The first thing she noticed was a heavy blanket on her legs. The second was a profound emptiness. Her hands flew to her stomach and found it flat, bandaged, and hollow. Easy now, a calm voice said. It's all okay. Her throat was raw. Her voice was just a whisper. My babies, she rasped. Where are my babies? A nurse approached her bedside. Her name tag read Jenna Morales. They're in the neonatal intensive care unit, Jenna said with a gentle smile. They're a little early but very strong. A girl and a boy. And they're doing great for 32 weeks. Tears started to well up in Olivia's eyes. Can I see them? As soon as you're a little more stable, of course. How long was I out? About an hour since you left the operating room, Jenna replied. The surgery went perfectly. Dr. Cole is an amazing surgeon. The next question was a reflex, one she learned from 4 years of marriage. Where is Ryan? Jenna's smile flickered for just a second. It was so small, someone less desperate would have missed it completely. I'll check on that for you, she said. But you do have a visitor. He's been here since you came out of surgery. Are you feeling up to seeing him? Olivia blinked. My mother, my sister, not family, Jenna answered. But he seems to care a great deal. She then stepped away from the door. A tall man was standing in the doorway. He was in his early 40s, with dark hair and a bow tie hanging loosely around his neck. She recognized that face. Every business magazine in the country recognized that face. Her mind was still foggy, trying to pull the name through the haze of exhaustion. Alexander Cole. Alex, he said, stepping into the room and suddenly looking a little shy. Hi. What are you doing here? Olivia asked, completely baffled. You don't even know who I am. No, he said, I don't. But my sister was your surgeon. She called me. She told me you were all alone, and I have some personal history with that, so I couldn't just stay away. Personal history? She repeated. Alex pulled a chair closer to her bed. My mother died in a hospital room when I was 14, he said softly. Stage 4 cancer. My father was in Singapore, closing some big deal. My sister and I were at school. By the time they finally called us, she'd been gone for hours. Olivia swallowed hard. I'm so sorry. I can't go back in time and sit with her, he continued. But I can sit with you. And I promise you this, you are not crazy for wanting your husband to be here. Her eyes began to burn. Jenna the nurse quietly slipped out, leaving them alone. Olivia just stared at the ceiling, trying desperately to keep her tears from falling. Did you call him? She asked. Alex's jaw tightened. Yes. And he said he would try to get here. Olivia let out a sad, bitter laugh that didn't sound like a laugh at all. Of course he did. I'm sorry, Alex said. Just those 3 simple words. No excuses. No spin. No. But he's under a lot of pressure. He just admitted that what was happening to her was wrong. And that's when Olivia finally broke. Huge sobs shook her whole body as hot tears ran into her hair. She cried for the blood on the floor, for her tiny babies in plastic boxes, and for every time she had apologized for being lonely. Alex didn't say, "It will all be okay." He didn't tell her to be strong or that she was brave. He just sat there, a quiet, steady presence, while she completely fell apart. 10 minutes later, the door burst open. Ryan Parker strode into the room, his tie loose, his suit perfect. He smelled faintly of expensive cologne and champagne. "Liv," he said, looking right at her, then his eyes narrowed as he saw Alex in the chair. What the hell is he doing in here? Alex stood up slowly, rising to his full height. "I was here," he said simply. Ryan looked back at Olivia. "You look terrible," he said, as if that would somehow help. "Why didn't you tell me it was this serious?" "I did," she said. Her voice was quiet, but it was also incredibly steady. "Several times. You were panicking again," he said. "You've been doing that this whole pregnancy. I can't just drop a multi-million-dollar deal every time you think something might be wrong." Even now, after almost dying, a part of Olivia began to shrink back, but then she caught herself. "I almost died tonight," she said. "Don't be so dramatic," he snapped like it was a reflex. "You had a complication. The doctors handled it. You're fine. You weren't here," Olivia stated. Ryan exhaled hard through his nose, like she was a difficult client. "I told you I'd try to leave early. I got here as fast as I could." "You got here 3 hours after her surgery," Alex corrected, his voice calm but sharp. "Imagine your wife nearly dying while you're out drinking with wealthy investors." That was Ryan's reality. But he didn't care. "Liv, he's just trying to poison your mind," Ryan snapped, completely ignoring the surgeon's brother. Olivia looked at her husband. This was the man who promised her the world on a moonlit beach, yet he missed their anniversary and then the reveal for networking. He blamed the flights. He always blamed work. "He didn't have to turn me against you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You did that all by yourself." Suddenly, Ryan's phone buzzed. He glanced down, and for a split second, his face softened in a way it never did for her. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button to see how this betrayal finally ends. Olivia knew that look. It was the same smile he would hide under the covers at 2 in the morning. The same expression he had when he'd rush out of the room for urgent business calls. Her heart hit the floor. "Who is she?" she asked. Ryan turned pale. "What? The text, Ryan. The one that actually made you smile. Tell me her name." He shifted his weight, looking anywhere but at her. "Now is not the time for this, Olivia. Tell me the truth," she demanded. She was shocked at how steady she sounded, despite the chaos raging in her chest. "For once in our marriage, just be honest." The steady beep of the heart monitor filled the tense room. Alex stayed in the corner, a silent witness to the drama unfolding. Ryan stared at the hospital floor. "You're being paranoid," he lied. "It's the medication talking." "We can talk about this when you're thinking clearly." "Ryan," her voice cut straight through his excuses. "How long have you been cheating on me?" The silence stretched on. 5 seconds. 6. 6 months, he finally muttered. Olivia closed her eyes, the math stinging like salt in an open wound. She'd been 1 month pregnant. "So while I was growing our babies," she said, each word as sharp as a razor, "you were in another woman's bed." "It wasn't like that," he scrambled. We were tense. "All you talked about were doctor appointments and nursery colors." I felt pushed out. I needed someone who actually listened to me. Sophie was just easy to talk to. The words sucked the air right out of Olivia's lungs. "Sophie? Your assistant?" Ryan's silence was his confession. Her mind flashed to Sophie Blake, 28, always perfectly dressed, iPad in hand, a fixture at every company gala. Olivia had been kind to her, bringing her cookies and asking about her family. "Last March," Olivia said, her voice numb. "The Hawaii conference. You were gone a week. I packed your favorite blue swim trunks. I even hid a love note inside. You told me the trip was exhausting, and you barely had a signal. She was there with you, wasn't she?" Ryan couldn't even meet her gaze. "Yes," he finally whispered. "But it wasn't serious. Just a stupid mistake." "A 6-month mistake?" she shot back. "Ryan, do you love her?" He just stood there, his jaw clenched. "I don't know. Do you love me?" "Of course I do," he replied, but it was too quick, like a reflex, not a real feeling. She waited for more, for a memory, for anything. There was nothing. His silence was the loudest sound in the room. The part of her that had made excuses for him for years finally shattered. "Get out," she said. Ryan blinked in confusion. "What?" "Leave," she repeated, her voice turning to ice. "I don't want you near me." "You're not thinking straight," he snapped, trying to get back in control. "It's just the anesthesia talking." "I have never been more certain about anything," she said. "Get out now. Be reasonable, Liv. We have a life. We have a business and kids." "Kids who will not watch their mother settle for scraps," she interrupted. "I will not be that example for them." And that's when Alex finally stepped in. "She asked you to leave 3 times, he said firmly. "You should listen." Ryan turned on him, his face red. "This is all your fault. You came in here with your stories and you poisoned my wife's mind. Your wife almost died tonight while you were out celebrating." Alex snapped back, his own anger flaring. "You did this to yourself. She called you 4 times, and you told her to stop being dramatic. You destroyed this marriage perfectly fine all on your own." Ryan stepped toward the bed, ignoring Alex. "You'll regret this, Liv," he warned. "You're being emotional. You just had major surgery. I am not leaving my family because you are having a bad day." For the first time, Olivia looked at him and felt absolutely nothing. No hope, no anger, just done. "The only thing I regret," she said softly, "is not leaving you years ago." Ryan looked at her, then at Alex, trying to calculate a way to win. That was his whole life, running the numbers, finding an angle. But looking into Olivia's cold eyes, he knew he had finally lost. "My lawyers will call you," he said stiffly. He turned and walked out, the door clicking shut with a finality that echoed through the room. Olivia started to shake. It wasn't fear, though. It was the pure, overwhelming relief of finally letting him go. Alex sat down beside her. "That was incredible," he said softly. "I have no idea what I'm doing next," she whispered. "Welcome to the club," he smiled. "None of us do. We just try to be better than we were yesterday." For the next 4 days, the hospital became her sanctuary. She walked the halls in her robe, finally getting rid of Ryan's old t-shirts. Jenna showed her how to move without pulling her stitches. Every few hours, once she felt steady, they wheeled her down to the NICU. In that quiet room of beeping lights, she met her tiny miracles. Her daughter, Lily, was barely 3 pounds, with dark hairs and small, determined fists. Her son, Noah, was a little bigger, with a button nose and a funny little scowl. Jenna joked he was already judging the world. They were covered in wires and tubes inside their plastic cases, but to Olivia, they were absolute perfection. On her first visit, she reached into Lily's incubator. Those impossibly tiny fingers wrapped around her thumb and squeezed hard. "I am not going to let you grow up thinking this is what love looks like," Olivia whispered. I promise you both." Ryan only showed up twice. The first time, he stayed for 10 minutes, took a few pictures for his social media, and then left for a conference call. The second time, he brought flowers and started a speech about working through things. Olivia told him to leave unless he could say, "I am sorry," without a single excuse attached. He couldn't do it. Alex, on the other hand, was there every day. He didn't crowd her. He just brought her good coffee and the occasional pastry she wasn't supposed to have. He sat with her in the NICU, watching the babies sleep, and he asked about her life before she became Ryan's shadow. "I used to be a school counselor," she told him one afternoon. She watched Lily's heart monitor as she spoke. "Middle school. I loved those kids. But when Ryan's company took off, I became the supportive CEO's wife. I told myself it was just for a little while, until things settled down. But they never did, Alex guessed. She gave a sad, dry laugh. No. The more successful he got, the less room there was for me to be anything but his accessory. And now? He asked. She looked at her sleeping twins. Now, I want to help women like me. The ones who think being gaslit is just the price you pay for having a busy husband. The ones who call for help from the floor while their partner stays at the office. That sounds like a powerful mission, Alex said. On the fourth morning, Jenna arrived with her discharge papers. Good news, she smiled. You are officially cleared to go home today. Olivia's heart skipped a beat, but not with joy. Home. The place was filled with memories of lies. Home, where Ryan still had a key and could walk in any time he wanted. The thought made her breath catch in her throat. Jenna saw the look on her face. You don't have to go back there, she whispered. There are shelters, places to rent, or friends. I can't take premature twins to a shelter, Olivia sighed. My family is a flight away, and I still can't sit down without wanting to cry. A soft knock at the door interrupted them. Alex walked in with a bag of sandwiches from the best deli in town. What's wrong? He asked, feeling the tension. She is being discharged, Jenna explained, and she doesn't want to go home. Alex set the food down and looked at Olivia. Then don't go, he said simply. She blinked. It's not that easy. I have a guest house on my property in Marin County, he offered. It's totally private. 3 bedrooms, a full kitchen. It has been empty for months. You can stay there as long as you need. She stared at him, stunned. Alex, I can't just move into your house. We barely know each other. You know I answer when it is important, Alex said. Which is more than I can say for your husband. Olivia felt a sting in her heart. Almost ex-husband, she corrected. She was a new mother, fighting for her life while her husband ignored her. I'm not asking for anything, he said. No strings. Just a safe place to land. Olivia worried people would talk, but Alex didn't care. He knew what it was like to be the underdog. Jenna left them alone to check on the twins. Why are you helping me? Olivia asked. Alex sighed, looking older than his years. Before we find out if she escapes this trap, please subscribe and join our community for more stories about justice. I know what it feels like to watch a mother blame herself for a man's cruelty, he said. My father had so many affairs. Everyone knew. He made my mom feel crazy when she caught him, calling her needy and dramatic. Olivia felt a lump form in her throat. It was her own life story. She died making excuses for him, Alex said. I can't fix that. But I see the same pattern here. The gaslighting, the blame, the way he made you question your own mind. It's abuse, Olivia. Just because he never laid a finger on you doesn't mean it's not real. That word hung in the air like a heavy fog. Abuse. She had been too afraid to say it. She never thought of herself as a victim of abuse. To her, that meant bruises. It was not skipped dinners, unanswered calls, or being told she was overreacting. It certainly was not crying in a hospital bed while her husband complained about his schedule. Okay, she said. Okay? Alex asked. Yes, I will stay. Just for a while until I can stand on my own. You're already standing, he replied. You just do not see it yet. The guest house in Marin County was 2 hours north of San Francisco. It sat on a wooded hillside like a dream from a magazine. Huge windows looked out over the bay, and the living room smelled like fresh cedar. The kitchen was stocked with groceries and tea. A note from Megan read, "Welcome. You are safe here. Call me for anything." Olivia started to cry when she saw the nursery. She had not even asked for one. One room was a soft gray haven with 2 cribs and a rocking chair. Tiny clothes were already folded in the drawers. Alex stood awkwardly in the hallway. "My sister insisted," he said. "She told me what babies need." "I just moved the boxes. It is perfect," Olivia whispered. 2 weeks later, Lily and Noah came home. They were bigger now, with chubby cheeks. Noah stared at everything with wide eyes, soaking in his new, peaceful world. Lily loved curling up on Olivia's chest to hear her heartbeat. Alex was there every single day. He carried the heavy bags and built the complicated baby swing without a single complaint. He never tried to take over. Instead, he just changed diapers at 3 in the morning when she was too tired to function. He would rock a crying baby so she could take her first real shower in months. He even listened when she broke down in tears because Lily spit up on her last clean shirt. "You are not weak for needing help," he told her as they sat on this couch with the sleeping twins. "You are just human." Those words were the greatest gift during her darkest hour. "You're a billionaire CEO," she teased. "Don't you have something important to do?" "Honestly, no," he replied. For a few perfect weeks, Olivia's world was just feedings, naps, and quiet walks as her body healed. She even started an online course to become a trauma counselor, studying while the babies slept. In the peaceful woods, she began to feel like herself again. But the outside world came crashing back in. First, white roses appeared at the hospital with a note that said, "Let's fix this." Then came the texts, "Where are you? You can't just take my kids. You're being dramatic." Then the legal papers came. Alex brought in the mail and froze when he saw the return address. "It's from your husband's lawyer," he said, his voice flat. Her hands trembled as she tore the envelope open. The words were cold, professional. It was a petition for joint custody. "They want 50-50, Olivia said, a cold dread washing over her. "He wants equal time." "No, he wants control," Alex corrected her grimly. The very next day, Ryan ambushed her at the twins' follow-up appointment at the hospital. He was waiting in the lobby with a man in an expensive suit. The war had officially begun. Ryan stood up the moment he saw her. "Olivia, we need to talk about custody." The other man stepped forward. "Mrs. Parker, my name is Daniel Harris, your husband's attorney." Olivia clutched the baby carrier tighter. Lily was asleep in the stroller, totally unaware of the tension. "You served me papers," she said softly. "I got the message." "We want to resolve this peacefully," Harris said. "But we are prepared to seek joint custody and raise questions about your current living situation." "My what?" she asked. "You moved to an unknown location with a man you've known for just a month," Harris said. "That could raise serious questions about your judgment as a mother." It was a dirty trick. A hot flash of anger shot through Olivia. "You mean the man who sat by my hospital bed while my husband was at a party?" "That situation and your parental fitness are separate legal issues," Harris replied smoothly. "Are they?" a new voice asked. Alex stepped out from behind a row of chairs. He'd been sitting there the whole time, looking calm but absolutely dangerous. The lawyer's eyes widened. "Mr. Cole," he said, his voice cautious. "This is between me and my wife," Ryan snapped. "Your wife," Alex said softly, "who nearly died because you ignored 4 phone calls for help." Alex stepped forward, a human shield between Olivia and the men trying to bully her. He was not going to let them win. Alex looked straight at the lawyer. "If you move forward with this, I will personally fund Olivia's legal team with the best family lawyers in Seattle. We will subpoena phone records and the 911 calls. We'll prove your client was at a party while his wife was bleeding out on the floor." Ryan's face turned beet red. "You can't blackmail me. I'm not," Alex replied calmly. "I am simply explaining the consequences of your actions." Harris nervously adjusted his tie. "These public attacks can go both ways, Mr. Cole." "With what?" Alex challenged. "Rumors. We have documented proof of abandonment during a medical emergency and a 6-month affair with his assistant." The room went dead silent. The lawyer knew they were cornered. "How do you think your board of directors will react to that, Ryan? Or your investors in Singapore?" Ryan opened his mouth, but no words came out. He just stared at Olivia. "Are you really going to let him do this to me?" he demanded. "You brought a lawyer to our children's doctor appointment," Olivia said, her voice firm. "You're the one who did this to yourself." A new strength surged through her. "Here's what is going to happen," she announced. "I'll hire my own lawyer. We will create a custody agreement that is best for Lily and Noah. And I am done feeling guilty for expecting you to be a father." She wasn't a victim anymore. She was a mother fighting for her kids. She turned her stroller toward the exit. "Liv," Ryan shouted after her. "This isn't over." She didn't even bother to look back. "It is for me," she said. 6 months later, Olivia stood on the steps of the courthouse. It felt like a scene from a movie. She smooth-wooed her dress as people rushed past her lawyers with briefcases and nervous-looking couples. "Ready?" asked Jennifer Lawson, her lawyer, a woman with sharp eyes and a warm smile. "No," Olivia admitted. "But let's do it anyway." She took a deep breath and walked up the steps toward her new life, finally ready to face whatever came next. Inside the courtroom, everything was quiet and formal. Ryan sat at a table in a sharp suit with Sophie right beside him. Sophie looked worn out. It seemed the thrill of dating a CEO had vanished once the legal bills started showing up. When Olivia looked at them, she didn't feel anger. She just felt deeply relieved that she was no longer in Sophie's shoes. Jennifer presented their case clearly and calmly. She spoke about the medical emergency, the affair with an employee, and how Olivia was the children's only real caregiver. She pointed out that Ryan's visits were inconsistent and short. Harris still tried to argue for joint custody, but his case was weak. The judge, a woman in her 60s, with glasses perched on her nose, was not impressed. "Mr. Parker," she said, "the court wants children to have both parents in their lives, but only when those parents prove they can be responsible and safe. You have failed to convince me of that." Ryan shrank in his seat. "Based on the evidence," the judge continued, "full physical custody is awarded to the mother. Mr. Parker will receive supervised visitation every other Saturday for 4 hours. This may be re-evaluated when the children turn 3, but only if he demonstrates consistency." Olivia closed her eyes, letting out a breath she felt like she'd been holding for years. She was free. Justice had been done. The judge shuffled her papers. Because of Mr. Parker's affair and his choice to abandon his wife during a crisis, the court ruled a 60-40 split of assets in Olivia's favor. His lawyer tried to object, but the judge slammed him down. Divorce granted. That final crack of the gavel felt like a physical weight lifting from her shoulders. She stepped outside into the bright, fresh air, feeling truly free for the first time in ages. Alex was there, waiting patiently by his car. He had been her rock through the whole ordeal, but he had let her fight her own battle. This is a story about finding your strength when you feel you have none left. If you believe everyone deserves a second chance, please subscribe and hit the like button. Alex asked her how she felt. Olivia smiled, realizing she felt lighter than she had in years. It was like she'd finally dropped a heavy backpack she'd been forced to carry. She told him she was exhausted, but she was finally standing on her own 2 feet. When he asked what was next, she shared her big dream. She'd enrolled in a degree program for family counseling. She wanted to build a nonprofit, a safe place for women recovering from emotional abuse, the kind that doesn't leave physical scars. Alex listened, his eyes full of support. He didn't just offer money. He wanted to be on the board and help make her dream a reality. Olivia smiled, knowing this was what real partnership felt like. She accepted his offer, but insisted on focusing on her own healing first. Alex completely agreed it was the right thing to do. Then, blushing just a little, she suggested they get a real cup of coffee together once she felt more like herself. Not hospital coffee, the good kind. Alex's face lit up. They agreed it wouldn't be a date, at least not yet. The next 6 months flew by in a happy blur. The guest house was no longer a hideout, it was a home. The twins, Lily and Noah, were growing fast and exploring everything. Olivia was busy juggling college papers and the beautiful chaos of raising 2 toddlers. It was hard, but it was finally her life. Alex had become an expert at assembling baby furniture and rocking teething twins in the middle of the night. He learned all the little secrets of being a parent. One crisp October evening, they sat on the deck, looking up at the stars. Olivia had something important to say. She pointed out that the twins barely knew their biological father, Ryan. He'd shown up for a few visits, then mostly disappeared. But they knew Alex. He was their constant. Alex felt a lump form in his throat as she talked. She described how the kids would run to him the second he walked in the door. To them, he was the only dad they'd ever really had. She explained how they called for him in the night, and how Noah loved to fall asleep on his shoulder. In their eyes, he was already their father. Alex was clearly moved. Olivia made sure he knew she wasn't trying to erase the past. She was grateful for the children Ryan had given her. But she wanted their legal reality to match the love they felt every single day. Taking a huge leap of faith, she asked Alex if he would consider officially adopting them. She wanted him to be their father on paper, just like he already was in their hearts. Alex sat there in stunned silence for a long moment, then slowly reached out and took her hand in his. Alex admitted that this past year had been the best time of his life. After everything Olivia had suffered through with her toxic ex, seeing the twins' faces light up when he arrived home was the greatest reward. He let a tear fall, unashamed of his emotions. He told her he loved the kids and he loved her too. Without hesitation, he said he would be honored to become their legal father. Olivia felt a surge of pure joy. Then, Alex suddenly stood up, pacing the deck with nervous energy. He stopped, turned back to her, and dropped down to one knee. Olivia's heart skipped a beat as she realized what was about to happen. Please subscribe if you believe everyone deserves a family who stays. Alex pulled out a small box and told Olivia how she inspired him to be a better person. He was not promising a perfect life, but he promised to always show up for her and the children, no matter how hard things got. He opened the box to reveal a beautiful ring and asked her to marry him. Olivia's mind flashed back to her darkest moments, like being alone on that cold bathroom floor. She compared that old pain to the incredible kindness Alex had shown her since the day they met. She thought about how he truly listened and cared for her family. This was the man who had truly stayed by her side when she needed him most. She said yes through tears of pure happiness. He slipped the ring on her finger, and they shared a beautiful kiss. Just then, one of the babies started crying inside, breaking the romantic moment. Alex laughed, saying their duty was calling. Olivia joked about the messy realities of parenthood, but Alex insisted it was the best job he ever had. Fast forward 18 months, and their home in Sausalito was full of life and happy messes. Noah was sitting in his high chair, covered in syrup, and shouting for more pancakes. Alex was at the stove, calmly flipping breakfast while reminding the little guy to use his indoor voice. It was a picture of total domestic bliss. Noah remembered his manners and said, "Please." Lily proudly showed off a new drawing of their family. Olivia, now 7 months pregnant, looked at the colorful stick figures. Lily explained that the drawing included Mommy, Daddy, the twins, and even the new baby in her belly. Olivia joked that they were going to need a much bigger refrigerator to hold all this art. Their kitchen door was already covered in crayon drawings and ultrasound photos, marking the milestones of their growing family. It was a beautiful, messy gallery of their new life together. Every piece of paper represented a moment of joy and a promise of a future filled with love and laughter. Alex served her breakfast and checked in on the baby. They were naming their daughter Megan, after the doctor who had saved Olivia during her medical crisis. Olivia joked that the baby was already a little athlete, given all the kicking. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Alex returned with a formal envelope from the courthouse. Olivia felt a rush of nerves as she took the papers from him. Her hands shook while she opened the envelope and began to read. As her eyes raced across the legal text, her expression shifted from anxiety to pure shock. She could hardly believe what she was seeing on the page. This was the moment they had been waiting for after so many months. Alex was dying to know what the papers said. Olivia told him through happy tears that the adoption was officially final. He was now the legal father of both Lily and Noah. Alex was overcome with emotion as he grabbed the kids and held them tight. The children were thrilled, though Lily noticed her dad was crying. He explained that these were happy tears, something Lily took very seriously. Olivia joined them, feeling the warmth and unity of their family. They were finally a complete unit in the eyes of the law. This was the happy ending she had once thought was impossible. They were a family, bound not just by blood, but by choice and commitment. A wedding photo hung on their wall, showing a day of pure joy and laughter in their backyard. A plaque beneath it reminded everyone that family is about who shows up, not just blood relations. Looking at her husband and children, Olivia felt a deep sense of peace. She thought about how far she had come from that lonely, terrifying night on the bathroom floor. Back then, the man who was supposed to care for her had ignored her pleas for help. Now, she was surrounded by genuine love and support. The contrast was incredible. She was no longer a victim, but a woman who had built a beautiful life from the ashes of her past. Now her life was filled with sunlit mornings and the happy chaos of children. Alex was a man who stayed through every challenge, from late-night fevers to the simplest daily chores. While Ryan had given her children, Alex had given them a true father and given her a real partner. He was not perfect, but he chose her every single day. Olivia had learned a vital lesson. You cannot force someone to care by shrinking yourself. Being busy is often just an excuse for not making someone a priority. The only thing you can control is choosing your own worth. When you finally choose yourself, you open the door for people who will truly value you. Choosing herself changed everything and brought the right people into her life. These were the people who listened and stayed by her side during her darkest hours. Olivia hugged her family close, feeling completely at home. When Noah asked for more pancakes, Alex was already on it, ready to serve his family. Olivia realized that a real happy ending is not a fairy tale. It is found in the messy reality of daily life, the dirty dishes, the scattered toys, and having a partner who does the work with you. true love is showing up every day. If this story touched your heart, remember to value yourself first. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Olivia decided this was so much better than any fairy tale. Her story is not about some billionaire saving a damsel in distress. It is about a woman who was slowly dying in a life she was told to be grateful for, and who finally chose to live a different one instead. It is about calling emotional abuse what it is, even when you cannot see the bruises on the skin. It is about the terrifying, freeing choice to walk away from someone who keeps choosing everything else over you. Most of all, it is about that quiet, powerful love that proves itself not with big speeches, but with small, consistent acts. Like picking up the phone, showing up at the hospital, or rocking a baby at 3 in the morning. It is about just listening when you say something is wrong, and truly believing you. Family is not always made of blood. Sometimes it is the people who see you at your absolute worst and decide to stay anyway. If Olivia's journey made your heart pound and finally find some peace, I would love for you to share this story with someone who needs to hear they are not asking too much for wanting real love. Save this video to come back to on the days you need a little more courage to choose yourself. Please subscribe and follow if you enjoy long, emotional stories about heartbreak, healing, and getting a second chance. Tell me which moment hit you the hardest. Olivia on the bathroom floor, the hospital, the courthouse papers, or the pancakes in that messy kitchen? Let me know in the comments. I read them all. About 30 minutes ago, I was going to say something, but I think I got it out of my system. It has been a great experience. I really do not know about coffee. First of all, it is freaking delicious. But I am starting to wonder. You know, it dries you out and makes your digestion feel like passing lava rocks unless you are chugging a gallon of water every single day. Tricks you into feeling like you are not tired, but it messes up your brain. Some say it leads to things like Alzheimer's and dementia. But then you see all these other studies that say a cup of coffee a day is actually good for you. Who are you supposed to believe? Somebody sent me a video of a total clown on Instagram talking about how to handle it.